What if everything you thought you knew about faith, religion, the universe, and success wasn't the whole truth? What if the answers have been in front of us all along, hidden in religion, science, and the very fabric of reality? I grew up in the Bible Belt, surrounded by deep faith, but as I got older, I started questioning. That search led me to study psychology, philosophy, and ultimately law, where I was trained to analyze evidence and think critically. As a prosecutor and later a defense attorney, I built my career on uncovering the truth beyond a reasonable doubt. Now, I bring that same investigative mindset to life's biggest questions: faith, spirituality, and the forces that shape our lives. I'm Alexis Austin, and this is Beyond a Reasonable Doubt, the search for truth. It's time to uncover the evidence. There's this idea in business mindset, success mindset work that if you have a clear picture of where you want to go, you don't have to understand the how, you just have to start the process and it will unfold. And while that makes sense on just a get started kind of philosophy, the logical side of my brain has always been wondering, well, okay, why does that work? Sure, it works, but why? Tell me why. One thing that I have been seeing recurring over and over is this idea in success literature about moving forward even when the path doesn't seem clear. And every time I heard that, it tickled something in the back of my brain. And I was trying to figure out where the first time I heard this idea was. And I realized that what that concept is it is the concept of faith. Now, I know faith can be a triggering word, especially if you were brought up in any kind of religious home or environment, especially if you're no longer in a church or religious organization. But I want you to stick with me here because this concept of faith, I think, is timeless. And I'm not talking about faith in the doctrinal, dogmatic way of approaching faith. It's not so much have faith in this certain religious organization or this certain set of dogma or doctrines. Faith is much more of a universal concept. What's interesting, though, is that all of these success principles actually are rooted and founded in faith. And so my whole thing that I've been working through is I've been trying to figure out, okay, well, if all of these books are talking about faith, what is the actual best source to figure out how to operate in faith? And of course, I was trying to come at it for many years. I was trying to come at this idea of faith from a purely logical perspective. The whole reason for this podcast, I started this because I wanted to get to the truth beyond a reasonable doubt. I wanted to dig into what's actually true in the world, what's actually true behind success principles. And I've been doing this on my own privately, not just with success principles, but with life issues for quite some time now. I have been going through and rereading different passages and different sections of the Bible, trying to get a better understanding of this idea of how success truly relies on faith. And so I started digging in to sections that deal specifically with faith, because like I said, in a lot of these success principle books that I was reading, this concept of faith kept coming up. And sometimes it's called faith, sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's cloaked in, well, just put your intention out into the universe and then move forward on the next step. But that is essentially describing faith. There's a verse in the Bible that says that faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. That's exactly describing the process that a lot of these success books allude to, because the idea is we approach a goal, let's say a business goal or a personal goal, and we say, okay, this is what I'm wanting. I don't yet see it in my reality, but I'm going to pursue this goal with the understanding that it will materialize in my reality because I'm going after it. Now, a lot of these new age thinkers or metaphysics or metaphysicians, as they call themselves, say that you are setting out a vibration into the universe and that your vibrational energy will align with the vibration of that thing you're wanting and it will draw it to you. That's how they explain it. Vibrational language or fancy words to try to explain how faith works and how faith moves things into existence. In legal terms, when we are looking at the best evidence to present in a case, we are trying to find what's called direct evidence. And direct evidence means this is something that is not circumstantial evidence. The difference between direct and circumstantial evidence is sometimes it's easier to understand direct evidence when you understand what circumstantial evidence is and realize that direct evidence is not that. So circumstantial evidence is you have something that occurs that leads you to believe that something else occurred, but you actually didn't see the original thing occur. So you don't have the direct evidence. One of the classic examples that we give we will say, okay, especially since I'm from Colorado, or living in Colorado, I would say to the jury, you go to sleep at night, you look out your window, you can see your grass, you can see everything is clean and looking great, and you wake up in the morning and you look out the window and everything is white and you can't see your grass anymore. There's just white everywhere. That you can say, well, it snowed last night. You didn't actually see it snow. You just see the effects of a snowstorm, but you can properly surmise that based on the fact that there is snow all over the ground covering your yard, that it snowed. And so that is circumstantial evidence that it snowed last night. So you could come into trial and you could testify, I went to bed last night and it snowed. And you could say that with some assurity because the circumstantial evidence backs up the fact that it snowed. Now, it is possible, and I say it like that, I mean, it's possible some maniac came around your entire neighborhood and had a snow machine and just used the snow machine like they do on the ski slopes and, made it snow everywhere so that wherever you looked, it looked like there was snow, but it didn't actually snow and that it was man-made created snow. But it's not reasonable to assume that. The circumstantial evidence shows that it actually snowed. So that's what we call circumstantial evidence, where you don't have that direct visual sighting of the snowstorm occurring. You didn't actually see it snowing, but you can very clearly assume and safely assume that it snowed because there is snow everywhere. The circumstantial evidence shows you that it snowed. When we're talking about the different kinds of evidence, there's circumstantial evidence and there's direct evidence. Now, direct evidence in this example would be you were standing at your window and you saw it snowing, and therefore you can say, yes, it snowed last night. That is direct evidence. Direct evidence is something that someone sees or hears or witnesses or has evidence of occurring. That is direct evidence. So when we're talking about success principles, I was trying to find the most direct evidence for how this works. Now, in the law, we can use original writings as direct evidence. When we're looking for direct evidence of success principles, and specifically this concept of utilizing faith to gain success, then the most direct evidence that I could possibly think of was either personal experience or looking at original writings on faith. The most direct evidence that I know of lies in the Bible. Now, that could just be because of my background. It could be because of the way I was raised. Maybe you know of something even earlier. But for me, the most direct evidence that I can think of when we have this conversation about faith comes from the Bible. How does success actually show up? By using the principle of faith. My mentor always told me that your job is not to figure out the how. That's the universe's job. That's God's job. Your job is just to figure out that you're going to do it. When you bring the concept of faith in, you can say, okay, I'm exercising faith. I am exercising the knowledge that something exists, even though I can't yet see it. It's the evidence of things hoped for, but not yet seen. I know that this is what I want. I don't yet see it, but I'm going to operate on faith. I'm going to move forward in faith that this will come in. So bringing that idea of faith into the discussion really does connect how you get from a goal to actualizing what you want in your reality. The point of this discussion is not to force you into one specific religion or sect of Christianity. It's to look at what I believe is the most direct evidence that we have of how faith works and how you can use faith to achieve success in life, and hopefully help you connect the dots between this is my goal, here I am, how do I move from there. I'd love to hear your thoughts. If you all want to reach out to me, you can always email me. You can also comment on here and let me know your thoughts. But we're going to dive into this conversation over the next couple of episodes, and I hope that you find it as illuminating as I have, and hopefully this will help you uncover the actual truth beyond a reasonable doubt in the principles of faith and success. I'll catch you next time.